for my hair. Okay, so you can see it went back to its original shape. This type of technology, if vehicles are built with this, if you have a fender bender, you put an electric current through it, it goes right back to its original shape. Jock Fresco has implemented designs of home building where you could basically shrink it down in a small container for shipping and then just put that electric current through it and it goes right back to its original shape. So I've seen, if you type in YouTube, let's see, nitinol heat engine, you'll see an engine where you just put different temperature differentials of hot and cold, and this thing goes like this, and it's just just super energy. I mean, if we build this on a massive scale, you can imagine what we could do with that. So, some more capabilities with hydroponic food production. Have you guys heard of the Omega Garden system? Here's what it looks like. It's a hydroponic system with the tube in the center of growing lights that will grow the food, and as it rotates, that basically builds the strength of the plant because it's constantly changing directions of where the growth is occurring. So you can see a bunch of those on the left, and if we implement that with entire skyscrapers, we could feed everybody on this planet, no problem, even with the current population explosion right now. Okay, there's a really cool slide here of a vertical garden system, basically a skyscraper with every single floor, hydroponic food production units. So go ahead and picture that in your head.
I can get my computer and we could...
I think they're working on that. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure if they're finished with it yet, but yeah, I believe they're working on it. Okay, so to move into a sane system of, that focuses on resources, what do we need? Can we do that today? Well, this is basically the technology needed to make this happen. We need to be able to scan our resources for one, and to track these resources. We have that technology with satellites, SATCOM, sonar, radar. We need to be able to integrate that within the social unit of humanity, which is the city system. With intelligent design, we can make that happen. We need efficient, sustainable energy harvesting, which we all know we have that. And advanced battery storage. I have recently read reports, because I'm working on building an electric car right now, that we have the capability of going 500 miles per charge right now. So there's a lot of developments in advanced battery storage. Maglev transportation, we need that to integrate the whole global unit system, and we have the capability. Advanced computer database systems to regulate the city and make sure that there's a equal flow of resource production and distribution. Also integrate that with the industrial nervous system, which is basically a high flow of communication and transportation as well. And Cybernation, which Cybernation made its appearance in 1950. So, the way I see it with our current technology, from about 1928, that's when automation came out, right around that time. And then 1950 was Cybernation. We should have been transitioning to a resource-based economy right around that time. So the understanding needed to make this happen is going to take a massive shift of values of the way we think of our interaction with each other as a human family and the way we integrate with the planet as well. So basically we need a constitution of natural law. I'm not talking about written paper. I'm talking about that which is evident already. For example, if we don't eat, we die. If we don't have healthcare and medicines, then there's going to be social issues. We have to address that based on the scientific method, on logical reason and deduction, what works, what doesn't, put it to testing, and make our decisions from that. It only seems like the logical way. We've done that to every piece of technology in history. Everybody does it every day driving to work. So why not implement that in the societal system as well? So we also have to have a foundation of human concern and environmental concern. We need to have a cooperative incentive system which will allow us to create new values. So with that being said, we have to get rid of the monetary structure. How do we do that? that's pretty difficult because we're pretty highly integrated in that right now. Okay, so we basically, an economy of scientifically managed resources is a necessity. This type of society is not going to happen in a monetary structure. It's just going to cost way too much. So how do we transition into this type of existence? Well, we're still in a monetary system. So we have to start somewhere. And it seems that the established order does not want us to do this. You know, the powers that be, they simply don't want it to happen because they feel they're going to be losing their power. So we have to start somewhere. We have to do something individually, collectively. We have to start locally. And these are some of the things that I think that we can focus on. For one, we need to be able to cut costs because we are in a monetary structure. So the transition has to have a cost-effective basis to it. For example, the use of advanced, simple, cheap, sustainable technology. You see the picture of bamboo there? There's a big old huge honking piece of bamboo over there that's holding up the hydroponic system. I'm actually working with that to build hydroponic units with bamboo. So things like that people have access to. Also, the image on the left, that's an Earthship, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of that. It's basically using renewable, or using like trash and stuff like that, tires, cans, bottles, to build a home out of. So we have to start somewhere. So the main area of focus, as Ken mentioned earlier, I'm a primitive wilderness survivalist, and that's a huge passion of mine. So I want to kind of break this down in simplistic terms, and you can't do it more simplistic than that, right? So basically taking wilderness survival, applying that to society. Okay, if you look at wilderness survival, there's a rule of threes, and what that rule of threes is basically you can only survive for 3 minutes without air. You can only survive for 3 hours, three hours without shelter, adequate shelter, depending on your climate, especially if it's freezing ass cold out there. You can only survive for 3 days without water and 3 weeks without food. And depending how tough you are, it may shift to 4. So, the rule of fours, but and how much in health you are. But basically, that's a general rule of survival. And there's a sacred order in survival. When you're out in the woods, when I go out in the woods and I have nothing on but a pair of shorts, there's a sacred order of shelter. You want to find your shelter first. That's the main thing. Then, and in the back of your mind, you want to be thinking of water. That's the next thing. And then fire, which equated into society, that's energy. And then the last thing is food. So, when equating these things to society, it's not much different. It's very much similar. You got shelter, water, fire becomes energy, food, and then also applied with society is transportation because you have to transport these goods and services. You need access to healthcare and medicines and a relevant education to make sure that we have sane values to pass on to our future generations. So if we can focus on these aspects, then we start to move the power from the establishment into our hands. So, okay, I tell you.
The best one, sorry.
These were some images of basic primitive survival. There's a shelter on the upper left, water on the right, fire down the bottom left-hand corner, and then there's some wild food on the right corner. Now, society, you have a sustainable shelter, which there's a place up in Hesperia that teaches you how to build these things. It's built out of basically earth. Okay, that's a huge, abundant resource right there. So we can do a lot with that. Moving to the right, you got water, down bottom left, energy, far right, food, and the transportation. So shelter. This type of shelter can be automated as well. So that would allow us, as we get more technologically advanced and have access to that, we can just simply implement it. So this is an image of what's called earth bag architecture. It's up in Hesperia, California. It's a 2-hour drive from here. They teach you how to build these homes, and I'm actually building a project with this right now, and I plan to build my home like this. So you're using it extremely cheap. You have these elongated sandbags, and you're just filling it with earth, mixed with a stabilizer of concrete, about 10 parts earth to 1 part concrete. Or not concrete, but cement. Sorry about that. And then on the right, you see what it looks like. You're basically building these dome shelters. And if you've heard Jacques Fresco speak, he talks about how strong the dome shelter is, and how your brain's in a dome for a reason. And these homes are absolutely beautiful, very efficient, extremely cost effective. So that's a transitional route for shelter we could go. Water harvesting is another one. Okay, there's technology of atmospheric water harvesting, which you see on the right. That little machine there creates about 8 gallons a day just by sucking in the air and filtering that. It's called an Ecolo Blue machine. It's basically a dehumidifier, with filters on it.
Is there a website where we can?
Yeah, just Google Ecolo Blue.
Ecolo?
Yeah, Ecolo. That's ECO LO.
Blue?
Sounds right.
Yeah, blue, and it'll pop up. Now, I had an image down here on the bottom left of a solar desalination unit. It was just taken from Jacques Fresco's designs. And, that if we implemented that here, that would be huge, because there's a huge body of water just to the left of the entire state of California. Okay, also dew collecting. That's something that every individual in this room can do if you have the land and access to do that. You can build these little dew collector units. Just YouTube it. It tells you how to do it. And that's also one very effective way to collect water when you're in wilderness survival. You take off your shirt and just go along the grass like this in the morning, and then just wring it out, and you have a lot of water. Okay, going into energy.
I'll get it.
Okay, let's see. I think I had just a wind turbine over there. That's another project I'm working on right now, is building a wind turbine. Algae is huge with fuel. I mean, that algae, as far as the oil to plant ratio, is the highest of anything out there. It's close to 50%, depending on the type of algae that you use, and it's extremely easy to grow. All you need is sunlight, water, and CO2. There's algae in that pipe over there. After the presentation, you run your finger right through there, and there's some algae. Okay, so food agriculture, this is cool. This slide came up. It's okay. It's all right. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we're almost done. So food agriculture, this is a picture of my daughter on the bottom left-hand side there. We actually built that system together, me and her. And to share these type of values with your children is, I can't tell you, it's just an awesome feeling. Because she didn't really care about plants and that kind of thing until she took the seedlings that we grew and transplanted those into the system. And then she was hooked. She was like, oh, how are they doing? Oh, how are they doing? So, awesome transition there with our values. And that's just a slide on the right of what a vertical hydroponic garden system will look like in a skyscraper. Okay, had another cool image of my daughter actually eating some wild foods that we collected.
Do you want to switch it really quick?
You could flash that off.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so food foraging, that's something I highly recommend everybody to get into. It's extremely empowering, because when you get to the point where you can look at all these plants, you're like, oh yeah, I can make a tea out of that, I can get water from that plant, I can make food out of this one. I can cook this one down and it'll just make a tremendous amount of food. I can harvest the grains in that plant. I mean, for me, when that blackout occurred, the other, 2 weeks ago? I was just like, I had my fire out there and I was kicking back. I'm like, all right, we're good. So I can't tell you how empowering that is, because it's just, there's no stress at all whatsoever. Meanwhile, I had friends that were down here in San Diego that they said they heard gunshots. My Lord, people losing their minds over stuff like that.